Hello children, today we will discuss about the Stalinism and collectivizations. What is called Stalinism? Stalinisms who came into being after the death of Lenin. So it is the Lenin who played a very major role in Russia to implement the socialism concepts in Russia. So after the death of Lenin, we see the Stalinism period, and in the Stalinism period, the Stalin who introduced a new programs that is called the collectivizations. So dear students, what is called Stalinism? So it is governing the policies which were implemented in the Soviet Union right from 1927 to 1953 by Joseph Stalin. So here the Joseph Stalin who is taking the major role after the death of Lenin and giving importance to the policy of Soviet Union. So dear students, what is called collectivizations? Here under the collectivizations programs, the peasants were forced to give up their individual farms and join the large collective farms is called collectivizations. And this collectivizations program which was introduced when the food shortage was felt in Russia, to eradicate the problems of food shortage, the collectivizations program was introduced by Joseph Stalin. So dear students, as we see that during the period 1927 to 1928, the towns in Soviet Russia were facing the shortage of foods because the food was not having available in the society. That is and why it was not available? Because the grain supplies was not properly happening in Russia. As we see that in order to meet the demands of this food shortage, the government who fixed the prices of grain at the minimum charges so that the peasants could sell their food grains at the fixed prices made by the government. But the peasants of Russia who were obtaining the lands during the socialism process, they were not ready to sell their food grains at the fixed prices made by the government. Not only the peasants but also the traders, they were holding their food grains or the grains and hoping to sell their food grains at the high prices. And when Stalin understood the attitude of the farmers as well as the trader, so what he did was he sent, or along with their political parties, they visited the different farms and they understood the situations of this Russian society. So here in 1928, the party members who visited these food producing areas, and after visiting the food producing areas, they were raiding the kulaks. And why they were raiding the kulaks? Because the food shortage was failed, so they supervised all the large farms which has been obtaining by the traders as well as the farmer, and they tried to raid the kulaks. And even after doing that also, the problems was continued. So the decisions was taken to have the collective farms. And why the decisions was taken to have the collective farms? Because the government wanted to fix the problems of this food shortage. So they started capturing all the farms and they try to control all the large farms. So before that, as we see, when the socialism process was done by the Bolshevik party, during that time land transfers was given to the farmer, to the peasants. But as soon as the collective farms policies as well as the programs was introduced, we understand that instead of giving ownerships to the peasants to all these agricultural farms, all these agricultural farms were having the state control of all the large farms. So dear students, as we see that when the food shortage was felt during that time, the party members of the Bolshevik party, they toured all around the collective farms, farms which was owned by the farmer and peasants, and they started having controlling all over the farms to make the collectivizations program in Russia. So dear students, as the collectivizations program which was actively working in Russia, and to have the success of this program, several kind of decisions was taken, and one among them is establishing the industrial lines. So in order to build these modern farms, the industrial lines was established, and they eliminated the kulaks, they eliminated the pigeons, and they made the collective farms to increase the productions in Russia. So my dear students, as we see that the food grains was having great shortage in Russia, to counter these problems they established the collectivizations in Russia. So here, what is these Stalin collectivizations programs? As I have already told you that here the Bolshevik parties who forced all peasants to do the cultivations in a cultivate farms. That means all peasants were doing these cultivations in a collective farms, and the further steps they did was the land transfer to the ownership of the collective farms, and whatever the profit was there, they were equally sharing and equally benefited in the society. So as we see that all these are the major steps. The land transportations was happened, the ownership was given to the collective farms, the profit was shared equally, the industrial lines was established. And why all these steps was taken? Because they wanted to have success in collectivizations program. So my dear children, there were certain farmers, peasants who were opposing the collectivizations program, and those people who were opposing the collectivizations program, they were badly punished. They were sent to exile. They were very badly punished by the party here, because the party was trying to do the socialism process. But even after the oppositions, there were many peasants who were giving their suggestions as well as their ideas to the government that they are not at all against about the collectivizations program, or they are not against about the socialism process, but the problems which is continued failed in the society, because there were traders, the peasants who were opposing this collectivization program. That is why the peasants were also joining their hands, and they were opposing the ideas of collectivizations, and who were opposing all these ideas, they were severely punished by the political parties. And here, when the peasants, they requested to have the individuals farms and cultivations, finally the Stalin government who were agreed and permitted to have the independent cultivations, but they were not given much more importance in their society. So in spite of this collectivizations program also, my dear children, the food shortage was failed in Russia. The collectivizations program was also not able to fulfill the demands of the society. And as we see that there was bad harvest which was felt in 1930 to 1933, in which the famine was taken place, and when the famine was happened, nearly 4 million people who died in Russia, and they were having a very painful life in society. So dear students, as we see that here the Stalinism who introduced these collectivizations program, and he was trying to socialize the peoples, trying to sort out the problems of food shortage, and he introduced the collectivizations program in society. But in spite of these introducing of this collectivizations program, the the peasants who opposed the ideas and one who opposed all these ideas, they were punished and they were sent into exile. So thank you so much for listening to